Hey there, it's Seth Borko, the head of Skift Research, and I've got a brand new report that I want to share with you today. It's called our State of Travel 2024 report. It's perhaps the single most comprehensive report we do every year, and the best part, it's free to download right now. We have 350 plus insights in this report with pretty much a chart for basically any sector. Do you need a chart on hotels? We've got that. A chart on airlines? We've got it. A chart on consumer behavior? Guess what? We've got that too. I really appreciate if you check out our State of Travel report. You can download it now by going to skift.com/state of travel with dashes between every word. So that's skift.com/state-of-travel. Download the report, check it out, and let me know what you think. I hope you enjoy.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Skift India Travel Podcast, where we dive into some fascinating developments in the travel and hospitality sectors in India. I'm your host, Peden, and today joining us is Mehul Sharma, the CEO and founder of Signum Hotels and Resorts. Today, with Mehul, we will be discussing a range of topics, including Signum's growth, expansion strategy, the rise of short-term rentals, religious tourism, and his vision for the company for the future. Mehul, thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much, Peden. It's a pleasure to be with you on this podcast, which is extremely sought after, and it's a privilege to be here with you.
Thank you so much, Mehul, for your kind words. And so, without wasting much time, I just want to dive right in. Mehul, from just 8 hotels before the pandemic to 12 now, and you have 4 more in the pipeline. So, what have been some of the most significant drivers of growth for Signum Hotels during this period?
So, Peden, I think the growth has been immense for the industry across, and we're just riding the wave. If you see the hotels which has been signed up in across the categories of 3-star, 4-star, 5-star, cumulatively, the half year of 2024 has been much better than the entire year of 2023 put together.
Absolutely.
So it's a wave. I mean, the cumulative growth in terms of the supply and demand is a mismatch. Demand has overshot the supply, and it's going to continue for the next 10 years. So we absolutely riding the wave. Tier 2, tier 3 cities seems to be absolutely in the entire game, and that's what is happening. And if you see all the other major players, everyone is signing hotels, everyone is growing. I think it's a brilliant time to be in the industry. It always was. I've spent 24 years in the industry, but now is the time after COVID. I think the markets have opened up, the industry is opening up, the contribution is moving to roughly about 10% of the GDP. So there's a lot of things in terms of positivity from the government, from the people, be it the disposable income or the travel infrastructure. So everything has been put together, and hence the growth.
Yes, and Mehul, of course, we are discussing this right after the tourism ministry on Friday announced a whole lot of measures to improve tourism in India. So they are planning to do more, issuing 100,000 free visas. So yes, I think things seem to be finally moving because we were always worried about what's going to happen to inbound. But
Right.
one very important thing that you've mentioned is about the big demand and supply gap in India's hospitality market, right?
Right.
How do you plan to tackle this issue while ensuring the long-term sustainability for Signum's asset-light model?
See, you know what? I think through this podcast, it is imperative that we must understand that the growth should happen, but not at the cost of imposing certain issues when it comes to the sustainability factors, and being extremely sensitive as to how we grow. So, over tourism is the word which we hear every day. We need to ensure that something of that has to be taken care of. So what we intend to do as a small company, not only the hotels when they're constructed, probably if you're doing a greenfield or a brownfield, we encourage the hotel owners to probably take at least about 10 to 15 sustainable measures when it comes to maybe a treatment plant, to a solar energy, to, and that has become mandatory now. We ensure now we do not get into signing of hotels if the ownership of the hotels is not taking such measures, because if we just start constructing hotels across without ensuring that the delicate ecosystem is not taken care of, I think we're in for trouble. So that's something which we're following the footsteps of the larger players like the Taj or the ITCs of the world. They're extremely sensitive when it comes to picking up the local talent, to probably extremely enamoring the fact that there is a vocal for local, which is actually practiced. The water which is being used, the local culture, the immersive culture which has been talked about. These also gets percolated to all the smaller brands also. But it's imperative as leaders that we ensure that the best sustainable practices are not merely talked about, but it gets implemented. Out of 2025, even if we are able to capture about 50-60% of these practices, I think we will probably have a very fine balance of ensuring that the sustainability is taken care of, and it's just not being talked in books or in certain forums. So that's something which we practice very diligently now.
Mhm. Yeah, of course, sustainability is something that's important, and yes, and I mean, even though India does not get, those very high number of inbound tourists, but over tourism is an issue, even as far as domestic tourism is concerned. And that's why I see that, Mehul, Signum is also expanding into smaller towns and cities. So how do you see these emerging destinations shaping the future of India's, travel and, of course, hospitality landscape?
See, when we talk about the vision which has been laid by the government of Viksit Bharat, a trillion, couple of trillion economy, 2047, a fully developed economy. So, if you actually break down the number of years left, the growth which is going to happen will happen in tier two, tier three, and tier four cities. If you see how the Ministry of Highways or the civil aviation, the way they're planning and panning up, and the way the things are being moving up in terms of connecting the smaller towns, this is where the future is. If you talk about the average rates or you talk about occupancies, you will also realize that the smaller cities are doing extremely high numbers in the last 1.5 years. You talk about a city like a Vrindavan, it's touching almost about 76% occupancy, although the average rate is less because that's how it is. But talk about smaller cities, the aspirational values of the owners of these smaller cities have really come into the limelight. They really have been exposed to the global hospitality. They travel the world. They've got the propensity to pay. They've stayed in the best of the hotels globally. They want to build up an alternate business, which is hospitality, which is what is happening. If you see a lot of owners of a lot of pharma companies, a lot of other businesses are getting into hospitality, and all this growth is happening in tier two and tier three
Yes,
cities.
of course. The Max hospital owners, Analjeet and all, they're getting into hospitality, right?
Similarly, Ranjit Singh or Mankind Pharma or all these other, there are a couple of pharma companies, large players. They've ventured into hospitality because one is an aspirational value. Secondly, it is a profitable business. Third is that you are into the business which gives you the exposure of getting the best of the fields across, being an owner and experiencing the best of the hospitality. So I think that is what is coming up. A lot of people are actually sending the children to international schools and getting them trained. I know of a family which owns a couple of hotels and which is given to a large brand. They've sent their daughters to one of the most prestigious colleges in US, and for them to come back and take over this thing and start moving into tier two and tier three cities. That's the vision which these people carry for 20 years, because the development of the government is happening according to that. Since we are in that field, we speak to the owners. That's exactly what it's been transpired when it comes to the experiential stays and getting the local feel in these smaller cities is what people are looking at now.
Absolutely. So the growth is definitely in the smaller towns and cities. Um,
Correct.
Mehul, you mentioned Vrindavan, and I see that religious tourism has been a core focus for Signum. You have upcoming
Correct.
properties in Ayodhya and
In
Vrindavan.
yes,
Yes,
Shirdi
and
also. We just signed something in Shirdi. Yes.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just
What
about.
makes religious destinations such a strong investment for you, and how do you differentiate the guest experience in these locations from, say, leisure destinations?
Okay, so you know what? Let's understand the psyche of the people who travel to a leisure destination or to a religious destination. So, leisure destination, the average length of stay is about 2.8, roughly about three and a half. In religious tourism, the core motive of the person, especially after COVID and especially after the Ram temple, which has come up, is that the sense of being religious has really cropped up, and it's really coming across as a very strong feeling when it comes to people in our country, and that is backed by the fact that all these cities, be it Tirupati or be it Shirdi or be it Vrindavan or be it say Ayodhya, is backed by now a good infrastructure to ensure that the people who've got the propensity and capacity to pay, and it's connected very well, is what they want to do it. You talk about Kedarnath, Badrinath. Look at the average rates of these cities. It's 20% higher than what probably one would pay even at a city like a Goa. Ayodhya is hovering at about 10.5 to 14,000 rupees and an average occupancy of about 82%. 6.5 crore people visited since the temple was opened up, which is probably the highest numbers in the entire country put together in a city in terms of the overall numbers which has come in. The reason is that people have taken religious tourism very seriously. The government also took it as a very strong initiative to ensure that people who want to travel, they have the best facilities, be it the connectivity, hence the airports, be it the roads, which is absolutely brilliant how it's connected, and of course the hotels. Look at the hotels which is coming up. You've got a couple of Taj coming up. We've got a hotel coming up. You've got Sarovar, which was already there. You name the brand, it's all there. Leela's coming up. I met one of the owners yesterday. He's making a luxury tent in about 2 acres of land. Everyone is thronging into uh, Ayodhya because the numbers will not hamper, and it is not a seasonal business. Religious tourism is not defined by season.
Yeah, I think
Hot, cold,
it's all 365
exactly,
day,
exactly.
right?
That's it. Say June, July, August, because of rains or heat. Ayodhya, irrespective, it's 45 degrees, people will travel. It's 5 degrees, people will travel. That is what the hoteliers have realized, that this is something which is going to happen, and government has realized. Hence, we worked on this thing. Hence, the numbers. It's
Yeah.
just the numbers which proves this now.
Also, Mehul, you talked about these occupancies in cities like Ayodhya, Vrindavan, Shirdi. So, with these cities experiencing this, so-called surge in visitors, are you also seeing new patterns and demands from travelers who are seeking a kind of mix of spiritual and of course experiential travel as well?
So one of the key things when we come up with a hotel in a religious city is the menu. So the menu is kept absolutely in sync with to ensure that people eat pure vegetarian food. For example, it's made in a specific way. It is ensured that it is in sync with what is expected when you're going to a temple. The people ask for minimalistic yet comfort and luxury. I will not say luxurious stay, but they want simplest yet absolutely clean accommodation and the connectivity to the hotel. So specifically, when you design a hotel uh, in these religious cities, it's the proximity to the main temple, the food menu. We've seen the demands for the buffet breakfast, for example, setup is to be extremely early in the morning, the food to be available 24/7. So there's a because the temples are open throughout round the clock. There is a specific round the clock menu which is kept, again driven by the demand, because people come in, and flexibility in terms of check in and check out, because that's what is expected, and extremely comfortable environment in terms of uh, uh, the laundry services, because that's something which came out very, very strongly in a place like Shirdi, because people, when they come in, they check in, they want their clothes to be laundered and before they visit the temple, and of course the connectivity. So they're very specific demands which has come in, and it comes in from the customers only. And when people come in to visit a religious city, they have their basic, strong 5-10 pointer agenda, which is very clear. Visit the temple, take a good, clean bath. The water should be available. Then of course, the food, lighter note. Of course, there's no non-vegetarian, for example. Facility of carrying the prasadam back there. Then the facility to probably buy a small idols which is available. So you tie up with local people there. Small boutiques could be opened in the hotel itself, which actually has those little small idols of the main temple, so that people carry. So there's a lot of touch of the religious aspect in the hotels, specifically in these cities. That gets designed as a service design based on the needs when you see the people coming in. But length of stay is very, very short, 1.5. People come, visit the temple, they need a comfortable car, go back, do not want long queues, come back, have a light meal, flight, and off. That's the purpose. Leisure is a completely different ballgame altogether.
Hey there, it's Seth Borko, the head of Skift Research and one half of the Skift Travel Podcast with Seth and Sarah. And today, I'm calling all strategic decision makers. Are you in need of industry and sector-specific data and analysis? Well, Skift Research has your back. We've got 40 new reports every single year and a historical archive dating back to 2013. Check out the latest at research.skift.com and get 10% off of your first year with code PODCAST.
Exactly. But Mehul, with the rise of domestic travel, people are also taking these shorter trips post-COVID, right? I mean, like it's no
Yep.
longer about,
Yeah,
earlier it was
absolutely.
one international holiday, 2 domestic holidays, but now
Correct.
people are taking shorter trips. So how are
Correct.
you trying to adapt your business model to cater to the growing number of Indian travelers who are opting for these shorter, spontaneous trips? And of course, with increasing disposable income and changing traveler preferences, how are you also trying to incorporate more of luxury and customization into your accommodation offerings?
So you know what? When it comes to the holidays, what we've realized in the last 1 year, we've seen, for example, we've got apartments in Dubai.
Mhm.
During the weekdays, weekends, long weekends, we would see a larger surge in numbers of people going to Dubai than to even go out. So what is happening now is that the disposable income which has come in, people are opting for international holidays. People are opting for luxury. People want a specific food type which is more local in nature. People
Mhm.
definitely want to go in for the concept which were talked about in terms of, say, farm to table, or picking up your own greens, or cooking your own veggies and all the stuff. That is happening. That's reality. It's not no longer theoretical. It's all practical. Even again, I'm saying it was practiced. It is practiced in larger brands, but even smaller companies like us have taken luxury to a different level altogether, in terms of customization, in terms of what people specifically want when they want to travel to a city, like, for example, a rainforest area in an Igatpuri. They really want to experience a rain dance, for example. They want to get into the falls and experience that feeling. They really want to have the local traditional food. They want to go to Dubai and go to the Emirates Mall, or see the evening festivities at the Burj Khalifa. Because people are very clear with what they want, and that is customized in how the offerings are put into all the people and is offered to them. It's no longer very vague in nature. I remember when we were working in the hotel, it was 2 day sightseeing, 3 day city. It's not there now. It's highly customized. People are very clear as to what do they want, and we are offering everything to the customer. So it's all absolutely, yes. That's how it is happening now.
And interesting that you mentioned that. And for our global audience, let me just remind you that when you said the rainforest of Igatpuri, that's somewhere in Maharashtra in India,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Sorry. Yes.
yeah. Also, of course, you mentioned about your hotels in Dubai. with your expansion into the UK and the Middle East, you have this joint
Right.
venture with 360 Stays.
Correct.
So how do
Correct.
you balance the difference between managing serviced apartments versus, these traditional hotels that you run?
So you know what? Our service apartments are large blocks and they've
Mhm.
got 20 rooms, 30 rooms and all. It's easy to manage a service apartment than a hotel because there's a one complete block. The housekeeping is twice in a week. The engineering maintenance is all localized. It's not in that specific area. Very few people are there. The average length of stay is about a month or two. Like for example, in UK is about 60 odd days. In Dubai, it's much lesser because people go there for more of shopping experiences. Hotels is very heavily dependent on people who come for short stays, people who have got a specific agenda. Apartments is a different business altogether. Primarily, corporates moving into a different city. We've got a lot of people moving from ENY or a lot of techies which go into UK and before they get an accommodation, they stay at our service apartment. Similarly,
So
in
are
Dubai,
these mostly
it's a
Indians?
lot of Indians. Yes, a lot of
Okay.
Indians, a lot of expats also
Okay.
since our apartments are spread in about 39 locations, we get a lot of people who get relocated. And I know because we've contracted with ENY in India, and when ENY moves into UK, then we get these people staying with us for about a year or 2 years. So it's much more easier to manage a service apartments than a hotel. You don't have a all day dining. You don't have a coffee shop. You've just got a building. The revenues and turnover and the profitability in a service apartment is much higher. The costs are much more controlled. Profits are much better. The ease of doing services is much more. And of course, people are much more comfortable staying in a service apartment because you get your nice two-bedroom apartment with a kitchenette, with all facilities of a five-star hotel, and yet you are on your own without, the right form of unobtrusive services which is available. That's what people are looking at. So in hotels, you have F&B, you've got fine dining, you've got restaurants, you've got banqueting, you've got weddings, and all that stuff. Hence, the level of services is extremely high,
Mhm.
and yet the overall cost structure is very different when it comes to maintaining a hotel and a service apartment. So for us, we balance out a portfolio. And in terms of our overall profitability, when it comes to the balance sheet, the profits primarily are driven from the service apartments. But in terms of the visibility, building up a brand equity, it comes from the hotels. So that's how we build it
And
up.
what do you enjoy
Experiences
doing
come.
more? The service apartments or hotels?
Well, I've been a hotelier all my life. Service apartments actually came in because of COVID only. So I'm just trying to learn that bit. So hotels
Okay.
is yes, definitely.
Yeah.
I love that bit because I've done 24 years of hotels. So
So
that's what I love.
it might be difficult, but it's still something that you enjoy doing more.
Well, see, when you're in the industry like hospitality, there's nothing difficult because you're dealing with two things. Most importantly, you deal with people, and you deal with money. So if you know how to deal with both the things extremely well, I think it's okay. So people management, and of course, if you as a businessman, you need to understand the cash flows and all that stuff. But people management is the most important skill, which I think we've learned it over the last so many years. So I guess learning it.
Yeah, and Mehul, your expansion into the Middle East is very timely, given the growth of
Right,
Indian outbound
right,
travelers.
right, right.
And now you have plans to expand to other parts in the Middle East as well. So, how
Correct.
is Signum positioning itself to cater to this rising demand, especially for long term and business stays?
Right. So I'm actually off to Dubai tomorrow for about 15, 20 days. Hopefully we should be finalizing two hotels. One is at Jumeirah, one is at the production city. Then
Mhm.
we are seeing two blocks of service apartments in Riyadh. We also looking at Abu Dhabi, and then very interestingly, Mecca, Medina, and these belts have come up in a very strong way in terms of pure hospitality demand and the way Abu Dhabi, UAE, and the way they're actually showcasing what the entire country has to offer. So it's very interesting to see that the average rate in, say, Riyadh is even higher than a Dubai most of the time than purely domestic travel. I
Mhm.
was surprised to see the kind of occupancies in Riyadh, which runs into 90s, 95% occupancy, and the average rate is double, triple, obviously because of much lesser inventory compared to Dubai. Now the focus of the government is moving into Riyadh and Abu Dhabi. So Dubai is almost reaching its threshold in terms of the occupancies and ARR, although it continues to be the number one city in terms of the tourists coming in. But some point of time, it probably will feel the heat in terms of demand and supply, because it's just too neck to neck.
Mhm.
Hence, the government feels the same, that they should develop other regions. Hence, these cities are coming up. So it comes up as a very strategically aligned vision of ours in keeping not an asset light model, but I would say an asset right, because we would probably get into a lease model in Dubai. We would
Mhm.
probably do a lease in Riyadh. And once we have a branding there, then we will start building up on a management contract or a third party white labeling also, which is extremely strong in Middle East. So there are very strong companies which does third party
Mhm.
management, which is also what we're exploring in a big way. Business is booming in Dubai, and of course, since there is no end to growth, you can always keep growing. Hence, the hotels are coming up, and the people are coming up. Look at the numbers: 23 million people in a year. I mean,
Yeah,
Indians
exactly.
overall in our country, we get about 10, 13, 14, 15, 16 million people. Dubai gets 24 million people.
Yeah.
The entire country put together doesn't get that. That's where
Yeah. Yeah, inbound
the
arrivals
overall
have
thing is.
still not reached the 2019 high
Correct,
of
correct,
11 million,
correct, correct,
right?
correct,
So, yeah.
correct, correct, correct.
What about short-term rentals in India? I think destinations like Goa, which you've mentioned, have been prime examples of a growing demand for short-term rentals. And how
Right.
do you see this trend evolving? And how are you planning to capitalize on this huge market shift?
So when we did a tie-up with 360 Stays back in 2022, they are an expert in short-term rentals. The
Mhm.
similar model now we're getting into India. It's called 360 Signum India. We are in process of taking service apartments, primarily looking at short-term rentals in at least about 8 to 10 cities. So the model is an extremely successful model in Dubai, in UK, and that is the model. What we, although there is enough and more competition, there are some brilliant brand which is already into this space, but there is always a room to grow. There's always a demand to grow. There's always in India, everyone has their own market. Everyone has their own share to capture. We're not here to eat into each other's share, because I think if we do a job well, there's a very strong short-term rental market in India. Hence, we plan to get this overall concept of short-term rentals while service apartments into India in the next couple of months.
Also, Mehul, so far, you've followed an asset light model, right? Do you
Yeah,
plan
right.
to eventually own properties?
Yes,
And
yes.
which destinations would these be?
So hence I mentioned the asset right will be the approach. So our
Hmm.
approach is 30% of our inventory will be probably owned or leased, and 70% will be managed. The essentially the idea behind this is to ensure that your risks are hedged properly. You have an asset eventually which you own, because worst case scenario, everything falls apart. You still have a structure which you own. We will surely look at Middle East, because that's where we've got some of our investors
Hmm.
based out of. In
And
India,
within
we will
India?
probably, within India, we will look at some of the key destinations like Goa, for example. It'll
Hmm.
probably continue to have an about 80-85% occupancy in the next couple of years also. We're looking at Haridwar, Rishikesh, couple of religious cities. Uh, Delhi, Bombay will continue to do well, because that's where the business happens. That's where the government is. That's where the center of all action is. So we will do a mix and match of tier one, tier two, tier three cities, have one or two leased assets. Owning, maybe not, it's too early for me to comment on, because I don't think
Hmm.
so. We would probably have that in our strategy in the next 1 or 2 years' time. Lease, yes, in the next 1 year's time.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Mehul, for this. And thank you for sharing your insights with us today. It was a pleasure learning about Signum and understanding your business model, especially regarding religious tourism and, of course, the evolving hospitality market.
Right. So thank you so much, Peden, for having me here, and thank you for putting us across to the people in different regions and domains, and they must understand and they should know how India is really coming up with a very strong GDP. of 7.2. World Bank sometimes have even commented on 7.3, 7.5. One of the strongest economies. If you see the FIS coming into India, we've got a very strong chart lined up. Look at the stock performances. Look at the IPOs lined up. Good market to be in the world in terms of stability, growth, momentum is India. So we must continue with this aggression in terms of making a country, a developed a country in times to come, with the support of across the people across the countries.
Absolutely, absolutely. And thank you for sharing this. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in to the Skift India Travel Podcast. Join us next week for more such discussions on the latest trends and developments in travel and hospitality. Thank you very much. If you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other platform, please subscribe, rate us 5 stars, or leave a positive review. Your support helps us spread the word about the Skift India Travel Podcast and ensures we can keep bringing you free content every week. If you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe to the Skift channel and hit the notification bell to stay updated whenever a new video drops. Thank you for your support.